Welcome back to a new video. So this was my last week of training, and things continue to go really well. So this was, I think, the worst of when I strained my back. I believe at the end of the last video I might have mentioned it, or at least at some point during the video, but the session was the 2 days before this one. So really the difference, the day after, I took some anti-inflammatories and training went fine. So it gave me more evidence that it was musculature in nature. Obviously, ibuprofen or whatever is going to help with joint stuff as well. But the fact that I got a pretty acute response to it and was able to train normally told me that there wasn't anything seriously wrong with it. It's, just a muscle strain. This day, I didn't take any of those anti-inflammatories, so it was a really short session because it wasn't impossible. Like I could have definitely have done a little bit more, but in these sessions where usually now I'm just in the shed, but doing the lighter work, I'm trying to be intelligent with it and not trying to, go crazy on these days. Still trying to get productive work in, but the back was really irritating, or at least it wasn't feeling good, especially on the pull of the snatch as well as the clean. So I didn't want to do too much, and I figured having an easier day would probably have been smarter just to do in general. So I believe that I just did a couple sets with this 40 with the power snatch plus push press, and then moved on and did a couple overhead presses. But after this day, I think I was like 1 or 2 more days. I think maybe just the next day, I took some ibuprofen, maybe on the next heavy day as well. But it was mostly as a precaution. Thankfully, I haven't really been having any like joint issues, which has been really nice. Like my quad tendons have felt really good. So I think some of it is obviously from just doing a lot of squat volume, as weird as that may sound, but I think doing that has helped strengthen the area, and not doing quite as many necessarily heavy reps, just a lot more reps, which for some reason is helping that quad tendonitis. Not that it was necessarily like preventing me from training or anything, but I don't have any discomfort there, which is interesting. I do have some on my right knee, some patella tendonitis that I'm starting to feel, but it's mostly not too much of an issue. It's something I'll feel like in a session like this after doing clean and jerks a little bit when I'm warming up for squats, but it's not something that kind of lingers day to day. It's mostly just, end of a heavy session like this. So thankfully it hasn't been too bad, but I think a lot of the mobility work has helped to improve things and also stave off, a lot of those, the tightening of different areas of my legs and shoulders and stuff. But I forget what I went up to on this day. I guess I did 100 a couple times. This was earlier in the week, obviously after that one, and was really happy that I was able to actually like do these sets and reps and stuff. The back was still a little bit sore there on that first 110. Now it's starting to come back to me. I remember being very apprehensive about that first one and just not committing to it, and that's honestly a common theme with a lot of my snatches and why it's good for me to kind of stick in this area. This is like 110 to 115 area, or at least 100, 110, and like hit reps around there, is because if I have any sort of apprehension, I miss the weight. If I have that same feeling or the same kind of like lack commitment with 80 or 90 kilos, I'll still kind of do the rep just because the weight is light. So that 100 to 110 or even 115, even all the way up to 120, is going to be enough of a weight where I have to attempt it correctly in order to actually successfully do it. Moved up, obviously on clean jerks, same kind of jumps, and I believe I missed. I don't know. I'm trying to like remember the session as good because I just edited all this and now it's like going past my brain. But clean jerks are odd right now because the cleans, if I'm catching the cleans well, then the jerks are going well, and then if I'm not, then obviously the jerks are not, which isn't the weird part. But the jerks are feeling interesting because they're going further behind my head because I guess the shoulder mobility has been helping with that. But it sometimes puts it in a weird position, and sometimes I'm still pushing it out in front. Particularly when it gets super heavy, like this 140 was really good. I forget whether that was the second one, but went up to 150 here. I believe I missed this one because I pushed it forward, and you see there the double bounce. Not that that is something that necessarily prevents me from making the jerk, but when I've been catching the bounce, I've noticed that it's made a difference with it. And there, yeah, it was just out in front a little bit. I had it up high enough, but it's just way too out in front. And the second one I remember being a make here. Much better clean. Even if I had to step forward a little bit, like that Sarab Maradi shuffle there, not the best looking jerk, but you'll kind of see as the week goes on that things continue to go better. So as this week finishes, or as the week progresses, I guess, you'll see the weights kind of go up in the weightlifting movements, and I'm going to try to continue to cycle them as I'm doing the squats, where like the first squat session is lighter and then it gets heavier and heavier and heavier, and then the same with the weightlifting stuff. Not that I'm necessarily concerned of hitting a specific number, but just to kind of continue to progress and build consistency with the variety of numbers that from lighter to heavier ones, of course. But this was the second squat session of the 5 sets of 6, and so I did them at 170. You have Rick here, unfortunately, telling me that these look easy. They're certainly not fun, but looking at them on video and like thinking back on them, they were certainly pretty routine, which was interesting because they're just not. I don't know. I don't want to say it's not fun because it's not really the way to describe like squat reps, but it wasn't like any of them were super easy, but none of them really got grindy or anything like that. So I was able to do them with like a normal amount of rest time. I wasn't like dying from them or anything, which is kind of a nice thing when you're doing the sets of 8 or 10. It's like the lungs take a little bit of time to recover between the sets. But the 5 sets of 6 were pretty routine. The next week, so I guess you see at the end of the video, or you might have seen some of the the top sets that I hit towards the end of the week. I'm going to drop to potentially 8 sets of 4. That's something that I might change. I might drop the reps a little bit as the intensity goes up on the variety of sets. I'll have to kind of play with that. Ideally, I would just keep the reps the same, since obviously means the volume would be the same, even as the intensity goes up, and the way that's facilitated is less reps of each of the sets. But I really think that I'm on a good trajectory right now with squats. So the end of the week ended with a 215 for a triple, where I honestly think I probably could have done another one. It would have been really difficult and really ugly. So thankfully I didn't, because I don't think it would have been the smart thing to do. And there's also a chance that I would have missed it. But what's interesting is I looked website. It's actually my dad recommended to it when I was like a teenager, which is interesting. But it's been a website forever. It's called EXRX, and I've always used that for like the 1 rep max calculator. I know they're all over the internet, but what's neat with this one, and if you just Google EXRX, you'll see it pop up. It has actually less, maybe it's the same amount, and I haven't looked at it for a while, but it has a basic 1 rep max calculator. So I'll put in 215 for 3 at first and calculate it, and it has like the reps estimations for 50, 60, blah blah blah, all that up, or 50% of your 1 rep max all the way up to 95% of your 1 rep max, and then estimated 1 rep max. But it also has a chart down below where you can look to see 3 different people actually how they assess or estimate 1 rep maxes, and you can at least look at the charts and see how they would assess like what would be your 6 rep max. And if it doesn't really make sense, just Google it and you can kind of play around with it. It doesn't let you do like change the calculation. Like there's Binsiski and Bachili. I don't know, they're really weird names, but it doesn't let you look at or like calculate using their charts, but you can kind of look to see what percentage they would have on there. But if I put 215, all that rambling, if I put 215 in there for 3 reps, it estimates a 1 rep max of being 228. Now obviously I've done more than that even this year, with 230 a couple times, and I believe way at the beginning of this year I think I've done like 232. I think that might be the most I've done in this calendar year. But if we put it at 230, for 4 reps, which I think I could have done, it puts me at 235, which I think is much more accurate, which tells me, gives me more evidence that it probably was, in fact, I had the ability to potentially do another one. And it's not like these rep maxes are, hyper accurate with anything like that. Because if we put in, say, 195 or actually, let's do the absurd one, because once you get above, 5 or 6, it becomes kind of goofy. If I put in 185 for 10, it estimates my 1 rep max of being 247, which is, pretty significantly above what my best squat is. And so let's put it in pounds so I can actually think about it. So yeah, it estimates my 1 rep max of being 547 pounds, which is kind of absurd. If we put in the 200 kilos that I did for 7, it's going to be slightly more accurate. It estimates my max being 528, which is interesting because that's like almost exactly what I've done. I believe 5 520 is my best squat. So just a little bit above, which is interesting. And then the 515, if I assume, or was that 515? No, it wasn't 515. My goodness, it's 215, which is 474. If I put that as 4 reps, then it puts me as like 517. So, I don't know how necessarily accurate the calculator scales are. It's kind of like a nice, like, gives you a ballpark thing of like if you're, I guess, moving in the right trajectory. Because obviously, if I did, say 6 reps, which was my theoretical attempt when I did the 215 kilos for 3, then my 1 rep max would be 551. So logically, when you look at the calculator, you could assume that it probably wouldn't have been super accurate for me to have like guaranteed that I would have done 6 reps. It's nice to think and attempt these things, but if like this is going to be like an extreme amount of growth, it's most likely not going to happen. So it kind of grounds you a little bit when you're thinking about a variety of numbers that you're hitting, particularly for strength numbers. For the weightlifting movements, obviously, these 1 rep max calculators aren't going to be as good, but for like strength movements, they tend to be, at least it's a tool to look at. So it's kind of nice to look at because you can look at, your maxes recently or what you've done ever and kind of just calculate different things. So it's a neat thing, and I don't use it very frequently, but it is kind of how, I guess, abstractly I think about my maxes. Like, what have I done currently? What are these different reps that I've done? Like if I did, an easy triple, because it's like you can assess, say, the 215 I did for a triple, and you could be very objective, and I can plug it into the calculator and look at that. But I can also think in the back of my mind of how difficult it actually was, and then you can estimate, let's say that if I did the 215 for 5, like that's probably a stretch, but let's say 5, and that estimate 533. So that's like probably my theoretical absolute max of a back squat right now, and it doesn't seem too unrealistic with that, seeing how my best ever is 520, and doing the 215 for 3 was most I've ever done with that weight. So it's already getting close to like reps and weights that I haven't done for these different things. My best double with a back squat is 220 ever, which I think I've done, it was this year at some point. So when I do these squats next week, when I do the 4 sets of 8, potentially at the end of the week, maybe try a set of 4, but as these weights get heavier, it's hard to necessarily do a set of 4 with whatever weight. What I think I'll probably end up doing is going to 225, since I did 215 this week, and trying to do it for 3 reps. I don't know if that's going to be possible, but if I did 225 for a double, that's already a PR. And if we look at that in the calculator here, so if I put 225 for 2, it would estimate one rep max of being a 231 back squat, which is just kind of neat because it just, everything is going, progressing really well with squats, and the theoretical maxes are like the growth. I'm like, maybe I can do 215 for 6. Like I knew it probably wasn't going to happen, especially once I took the weight out of the rack. But I was like, all right, realistically, I could probably do, realistically, I guarantee I can do 1. I probably can be able to do 2, but I would really like to be able to do more than 2. And that's kind of like the mindset I went in with that, because I knew 6 probably wasn't going to be there, especially because, I lift before that. Like I did snatches and clean jerks pretty heavy with that, as you'll see on these sessions. So it's not as if I'm squatting fresh, which is kind of another thing to account for if you're kind of thinking about, where your actual leg strength is. Is it something where you've come in and didn't train the day before, it's the first exercise that you did, or if it's like in my case, like I've done snatches and clean jerks and at a decent intensity or a pretty high intensity before actually doing them, it's obviously something to account for. So it makes me kind of lean that like I have a little bit more in the tank when I'm doing these squat sessions, especially like the heavier ones, because obviously I'm doing stuff beforehand. So it's stuff to think about and to account for with that. But believe I have one more, or no, this is the 195 day. So this is essentially a 5x5, obviously 5 sets of 6, but it's a crazy biggest set of 5x5 and a 5x6 with whatever weight. It's kind of tricky because like I don't obviously track like my best 5x5 ever, because it's not something that I'm going to do all the time. But it is interesting because I was actually able to do this, and I was thinking maybe 190, thinking maybe 195, and this is kind of another thing. Like I did this on Wednesday, and then I did that the 215 squat on Friday. So it wasn't as if I was fully recovered from that, but the weightlifting stuff goes well, so it tells me that I'm recovered enough to like attempt like a big squat, which is it's just weird because you'll see him kind of in the background, but he's another weightlifter, and you're talking about training and stuff, and we were talking on Friday. He's like, I don't know how you recover from all this, and frankly, I don't know how I recover from it either, because in one side, like I'm thinking like I shouldn't really be able to just like do these sessions back, every other day, where I'm going pretty heavy on the weightlifting stuff and like do all this volume in the back squats. But on the other hand, like they continue to work, and so I'm not trying to necessarily just always push beyond and take 6 ibuprofen and 900 milligrams of caffeine to do these sessions. I'm trying to keep it consistent with how I approach them. And obviously I had to I strained my back last Friday, and now this Friday I'm 100% recovered. Like I can't really explain that. Like I've stretched and slept and did normal things, but like the week was pretty overall normal, and I didn't do anything particularly special to get it recovered. I guess ibuprofen is about the only thing, and stretching, but I don't really understand it, and I try not to question it, because when you're thinking like it doesn't make any sense how I can do a 195 for 5 sets of 6, like setting it up, I'm like I don't think I should be able to do it, but like I did it. And so you just kind of have to keep pushing forward with there. And it's also nice because it's kind of like it's still the main focus of my training right now, is to keep pushing these squats up. Like I mentioned, doing the 8 sets of 4 next week, maybe doing the double or triple of 225. Like I still have the goal of pushing the back squat up, and I've kind of laid off doing the front squats for the simple reason that I don't want to re-aggravate my back. And as the squats get more intensive, and the fact that my weightlifting movements are going really well, I don't really feel the need to have a front squat added in just for the sake of doing a front squat, because I'm not doing a ton of volume, and I don't want to say it's necessarily risky to do them, but if my legs are getting stronger, my lifts are going well, I don't really feel the need to add even more strength work in for just to do it, like I said. And if anything, it might strain my back again, or it might aggravate, some sort of, it just might lead to overuse. Like I think 30 reps or 32 reps, whatever I'm doing in a session, are generally enough. But speaking of these light sessions, I've actually, by this point of the week, the 195 week, I think that was the last time I took the ibuprofen before, and I was mostly recovered on that day. It was just more of a precaution because I didn't want anything to like tighten up or spasm. That was kind of like the random feeling I would get, especially when I would massage it. It was kind of odd. If I would like reach behind my back and like kind of massage the area, sometimes it would just cramp up a little bit, which is just a weird feeling. But it's with the power snatch and the snatch push press that I was doing them kind of touch and go, and I'm doing the same thing here where I'm doing just touch and go reps. And it's interesting because it's I think for me particularly it's good because it allows me more so for the push press, the regular push press here, than for the snatch grip one, but it makes me have to stay in a rhythm and to stay more balanced when I'm dipping and driving, which is just good practice for the jerk itself. The snatch grip push press doesn't really, I don't know if it's really beneficial or not. It just allows me to do the set faster. But I do like adding the fact that I'm doing up to 80 or 100, and I'm not trying to really push above that, but just trying to make those the sets that I'm doing, or the one set that I'm doing with them, just a little bit easier. Here I have some snatch pulls, which I did at 130, and this is when I first trained my back, and the next day that I did pulls after doing that were pretty uncomfortable to do pulls, and by this point they felt completely normal. Really with the pulls, I'm just thinking about keeping it close and accelerating it once I get past the knee, and it's a different feeling than before, but it's definitely building some consistency with my snatch a little bit more, and you'll kind of see some of that consistency. It's kind of it was kind of a weird day with snatching, so I didn't have any misses, but you'll see I had some instability in the left shoulder, and a lot of that I think is just because I wasn't moving very fast, and I think some of that speed that I don't really have in general, but that I didn't have especially today, was from the fact that I did the pulls the day before, and that's something that, even though I'm really good at pulls and like I can pull really heavy and all of that, if I do volume in the pulls, just like anyone else, it does kind of, I don't want to say necessarily slows you down, but like the next day you're not 100% recovered from it, so the weight might feel like it's not moving as effectively, or at least as quickly, as snappy as you previously were. And you see there, I didn't have any misses. Got up, we did 100. I don't know if I did it twice or not, I forget, but I did 110 3 times. And then the last one felt really good. The first two were kind of stinky. This last one felt the best. And honestly, it looked the best. And then I went up to 115. And honestly, that felt better than all the 110s. So I think I just ended up putting more effort in on that last one. And, I'm still bouncing around at the bottom, but the consistency is getting there. I'm getting my arm behind further back, my shoulder, locked in behind me more. And I just don't have like that discomfort in doing like a snatch press with the empty bar as I'm warming up. So things are, loosening up, and I think the mobility is starting to get back. And I'm excited for it because I want to push it up, but I still want to be not necessarily cautious with it because obviously I'm still, pushing the weights up, but the focus is still the back squat. And until I, potentially hit that heavy double, maybe I can do a big reset after that, or just continue to push up maybe for a 1 rep max. I'm not necessarily concerned about hitting a new 1 rep max. Like if I did a 225 for 3, that would be, even for 2, because that would be a PR double. Like I'd be really happy about that. But I think if I did, I'd probably want to go up and try the next week doing like 235. I'm pretty sure that would be a PR. And then at least, even if it's not a PR, I haven't done it in a very long time or ever. So it's either one of the two. So it'd be really good to be able to do. This first 155 here, that was 150 here. I was really happy with that. The 140 was really weird. And then this is the first attempt at the 155. And I was really annoyed because clean felt pretty good. I had like the strength and the rhythm for the jerk, and I just pushed it out in front. And I was really annoyed because like I had it up high enough. It was just too far in front. So I actually tried it the second time, which, you can kind of see like the kind of session I did before the heavy squat. So I definitely have some more in the tank. And I think if I tried a 1 rep max, I think that would be the one adjustment. I would just do the weightlifting really lightly before to give myself the best chance of hitting a big squat. Particularly if it's a 1 rep max. Like I might not really care if it's the 225 or whatever. But if I could hit the 235, that'd be really good. And then I don't know, maybe we just do I don't really want to change things. It's like the weightlifting movements themselves are going well, and so it doesn't really seem like it would make much sense to even like do a weightlifting focused training cycle, because it feels like my technique and everything is feeling good and strength's getting better and just training is going really well. So maybe this is just how I train forever now. I just do sets of 10 and 8 and 6 and 4 and 2 and 1, and then just keep getting my legs stronger. But obviously, I might need to have more dialed in weightlifting focus if I, want to improve or work on different things. But frankly, like the way training is going right now, I don't really envision myself trying to radically change things because everything's just going so surprisingly well. And that's why I kind of titled the video like this. So I don't want to change anything. I want to continue to get stronger. And if that means the back squats are the way to go and my weightlifting is going to continue to move well, then I don't want to reinvent the wheel. And honestly, it makes training simple in a sense. It's difficult, but it's simple. And maybe I adjust things, but right now don't have any like big pains or anything. And as long as I don't overdo it with like front squats on the other days when I'm not doing back squats, then I think I should be all right. But that's going to be it for this one. If you made it to this point of the video or to any point, I appreciate it. I'll talk to you all in the next one. Have a great day. Peace.